What can I eat, motherfucker? What do you eat? It better be fucking keto. Been watching you all this fucking time. If you're not eating keto, I'm gonna fucking punch you in the fucking nuts and shit. Well, one of the most common motherfucking questions I get on this channel is what can I eat? What can I eat? And what do you eat? And I've decided that maybe the time has come to start putting a spotlight on what I personally eat, the solutions I come up with, given the basic food lists that are out there that are easily findable. You just kind of find the one that from the person that you follow the most. I like Dr. Westman's take on it because he's a realistic motherfucker who treats a lot of people clinically for obesity, and he does so with a ketogenic diet. So he has a lot of data and feedback on the shit that he does. So I kind of put a little faith in his food list. But I'm also a flexible, realistic motherfucker, and I realize there are going to be situations where you can't eat from the food list, or fasting isn't even an option, and you have to kind of navigate difficult situations. So I want to start doing a series where I do that, where when I'm going out to eat, that I document what I did and my thoughts process behind it. And then, if I fuck up, you guys can probably all call me out on it and I'll address it. Or, if I know about any issues, I do it. There's going to be a lot of tips and tricks because it's important to navigate this fucked up food environment we're in. It's not changing anytime soon. There are rumblings of change. There are more and more people getting on board with this. I see it from my subscriber base. I see it all over the place that there is a paradigm shift coming, but our food environment isn't there yet. Our supermarkets are just maybe a little hair on board. I'm starting to notice in restaurants more salads containing meat and fat and not a lot of carbs or sugar added to them. But it's going to be a while before this is mainstream enough that companies and restaurants will find it, a good, wise business choice to switch over to a high-fat, low-carb approach. There's still a whole lot of dogma that needs to be defeated. There's a whole lot of problems that people need to address. And there's a whole lot of addictions that are going to need to be overcome before this becomes a mainstream diet. A diet supported by the government, the medical community, the food industry. And I don't think the pharmaceutical industry will ever get behind this unless they can put it in a pill. So as this landscape is changing and we're kind of on the spear tip of a new shift, to where people are starting to realize that the ketogenic diet is not a fad diet, that there is legitimate scientific proof that this is a healthier way of eating. And the more and more people who try it, succeed at it, and share their progress and their journey amongst the internet and amongst their peers, the more it tends to spread. I currently have 2 friends that are trying this approach. I currently am also kind of helping an acquaintance with this approach. Don't know if she's committed to it yet. But, I'm kind of guiding people in my personal life, and you should too if you've done this successfully, and trying to just point out, and you'll annoy them. They're going to be pissed with you after a while, but hey, after a while, they'll start leaving you to fuck alone when it comes to you not eating certain things and you not participating in certain, food-centric, you can participate in the event, but the fact that when, they're all eating in front of you and you're sitting there with your coffee or your water, because that's pretty much all you could find, or you're fasting your way through it, they'll understand eventually. But it's going to take a while and a little bit of ridicule from them because you're not doing what they're doing to get through these food environments. So I wanted to start not necessarily a constant series of videos, but a food-centered series of videos that will get sprinkled in with all my other topics, to where I go over the things I eat, occasional snapshots of a day of eating, interesting food situations that I may have to even document with my phone because I'm not always carrying a camera with me, even though that's probably a bad thing when you're a photographer and videographer and all of that. There's going to be situations where I have to use my phone to document, and it's just kind of it's going to be a process where I kind of share my navigation of our food environment, the things I eat day to day. It's not, what I eat is not necessarily optimal health, so don't start, critiquing that. There is some bad still in my diet, I do realize that, but it is marginal at best. We're talking maybe you're moving the needle 2 or 3% into the unhealthy range with the unhealthy things that I do. But I'm open to criticism, so let's take a look at what I ate during my 36-hour eating window. For those of you who are not familiar, I am currently fat adapted. I'm on week 4 of my fat adaptation, and I feel it took a lot quicker this time, so I don't think it's going to take the full 6 weeks. I do believe it'll take 6 to 8 weeks to be 100% optimal, but for the time being, I have good energy levels. I'm awake and alert. I'm keeping my electrolytes up. I've had a few minor energy issues throughout this process, keto flu as it were, but I knew how to treat it, so I treated it. I increased my electrolytes. I took magnesium Epsom salt baths. I, added extra salt to all my foods. I tried to take in some keto safe processed foods, but I don't do a shit ton of that. And I just season everything, really, when it comes down to even salads. I'll try and pour a little extra seasoning on from time to time. So, it's pretty much my approach to keeping the electrolytes up. I haven't done the bone broth thing, but I do want to try and experiment with different meals I can make using bone broth and maybe some cheeses and, some other things. So that's coming down the pipe. And there are, of course, keto desserts and baked goods that I will be experimenting with. I'll show you guys the keto pumpkin pie. I'll show you guys, I got some keto chocolate chip cookies on my radar. Now, these are things that should be treated as regular desserts. They should not be an everyday thing. Maybe once a week you can have one of these fucked up keto Franken desserts. But all in all, your desserts should be some nuts with a little bit of fruit, some yogurt, and, we'll get into that. But I'm on a 36-hour eating window / 36-hour fasting window protocol every other day. During the 36-hour eating window, I eat intuitively. Sometimes it feels like I'm eating the whole fucking day. And then when you really look at it from this perspective that we're going to look at, it's really not a shit ton of food now that, that I take a look back at it. But while I was doing it, I felt like I was eating my face off, that maybe I was overdoing it. But it's all based on, once you're fat adapted, you can let your body tell you when to start eating and when to stop. And it's important. So without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Only you got to hold the fucking potatoes because, carbs and shit. But without getting too deep into the debate, we're just going to mainly go over what I ate, what my thought process is. And this first image, Okay, we have here some organic whipping cream. This is by far my favorite fat source. And the reason it's my favorite fat source is because this finds its way into most of my coffee drinking. The reason I pursue the organic heavy whipping cream is because it does not have an emulsifier in it. It does go bad quicker, but I go through the shit so quick, I never reach the expiration date. Now, what an emulsifier like carrageenan does is it keeps the fat and the water from separating. So you'll notice with this particular organic heavy cream, occasionally you'll get chunks in it, and you just shake it. And when you're done shaking it, you will, pour some in your coffee, pour it in the coffee, and to me, it is a very satisfying meal because I don't consume anything else with it. And, you can do this on a fast. It will slow your results for the fast, but it won't kick you out of autophagy. There's no protein in this heavy cream. And if you take a look at the label here, you'll see that, 0 grams of carbs, 0 fiber, 0 protein. It's all fat, half of which is saturated fat. And, it's dairy fat. So you got to take that into account. There's no lactose in it. It is just fucking cream with some disodium phosphate, which I do believe accounts for that sodium count there, which to me, that's a pretty low sodium count. Cholesterol, oh shit, gonna have a fucking grap. No, that's not, that has been defeated. The science about cholesterol has been defeated, okay? Cholesterol is something your body makes. It is a building block for your brain. It is something that we need to have, okay? And just because you eat cholesterol doesn't necessarily translate into cholesterol because your motherfucking body makes cholesterol. And it makes the fucked up shit if you're eating lots of sugar. The kind of cholesterol and the fucking LDL that fucking clogs your arteries. LDL being the transporter of the cholesterol. I do believe that's how that works. I could be wrong on that. I'm not the best scientist in the world because, trucks and shit. This is a staple fat for me, the organic heavy cream. However, if I'm in a pinch, I can't get the organic heavy cream. I get regular heavy whipping cream, which does have carrageenan. So my advice is whenever possible, buy heavy cream that is organic, mainly to get that emulsifier the fuck out of it. I don't give a fuck about grass-fed, corn-fed shit when it comes to heavy cream. It's more about the carrageenan and the emulsifiers that they add to it. So that's pretty much my fat. I don't put coconut oil in my coffee. I don't put butter in my coffee. Mainly from a preparation standpoint, it's a pain in the ass because you have to blend it in order to mix it properly. And I just find that it's not quite, it's a little too buttery for me. I like the heavy cream, and I've made a lot of weight loss progress and health progress while consuming it, even with the carrageenan. Now, one of the issues that I sometimes run into with the carrageenan is it makes me have diarrhea sometimes. So that's an issue. I avoid half and half whenever possible. There are situations if I'm on an eating window where I'll be in a fucking restaurant having a cup of coffee, they don't have heavy cream, or they look at you like you fucked their mother in front of them when you ask for heavy cream. So then you say, okay, just give me 2 cream in my coffee, and they're going to give you half and half, which is a double whammy. You're getting emulsifiers and you're getting protein in that usually. It's less than 1 gram, but it's enough to kick you out of autophagy, so you wouldn't want to do that during a fast. If you're going to have cream in your coffee during a fast, it should be heavy cream. Or you can do this bulletproof butter coffee thing. And it can help you get through a long fast without moving the needle too bad. Now keep in mind, you are going to burn off that fat before you're touching your body fat. And you may even store some of that fat if you're not burning it off efficiently. It'll sit in your gut a little while, so chances are if you're active and you do this, you will burn through it before it gets stored. But overall, unless you're drinking 3 pots of coffee a day, you're looking at 50 calories per serving. And I generally get about 2 servings with each cup of coffee. So about 100 calories per cup of coffee of pure fat. So if you're burning 2,000 calories-ish a day, you're basically going to slow your weight loss progress. You'd have to drink a whole lot of coffee to eat 2,000 calories of heavy cream. So I don't. I generally have a pot and a half a day, about 4 or 5 cups. So that kind of could be considered a, every other day diet style of eating where you're getting 400 or 500 calories during your fast days if you do it on a fast day. If you do it on a feast day, which I often do, that'll be my breakfast. So, but further into the feed day, I'm starting to get hungry. My body's realized, hey, guess what? It's time to eat, because it does. After a while, it'll get used to the ADF protocol too, and you'll get hungry on your feed days. And if you try and push through those, the hunger pain will pass, and you'll be able to go a lot longer without hunger pangs because you're fat adapted. But generally, your brain's going to remember, hey, well, this motherfucker's doing ADF, so guess what? Time to get hungry. Let's prime the pumps. Let's get ready. It's feast day. And you'll get a little bit hungry on your feed days. That's just kind of how it goes with ADF. So one of the things I like to snack on quite often is these motherfucking cheese curds here. I try and find these. These are produced locally from a farm up in Clayton, New York. It's, if you look at the ingredients, you got milk, cultured cheese, salt, enzymes, annatto, if colored cheese, olive oil, vinegar, dried basil leaves, garlic powder. All of this is good. Good stuff. Lots of protein, lots of fucking vitamin A, calcium, and you get a lot of electrolytes when you get the herb seasoning, and this is my favorite type of cheese curds. Another thing you can do is find cheese curds that are just basic and then season them yourself. Put Frank's Red Hot is another thing I like to do and eat them with a spoon. I make all kinds of cheese curd fucking mixes. Just even looking at this cheese curd fucking thing right now during my fasting window is making me salivate a little because I love this shit. It's good stuff. It's a great snack. And, I know we're not supposed to snack, motherfucker, but on eat days, I do try and eat when my body says, hey, well, let's eat. Even if it's just a snack, and I generally don't eat the whole bag in one shot. I'll have like 4 or 5 curds and then put it away. And, good to go. So that's what I did that day. And of course, later in the day, around lunchtime, I had breakfast. Bacon. Of course, my breakfast is eggs and fucking bacon. And I don't like it cooked super crisp. I like it a little bit rubbery, just a little bit. So, it preserves a lot of the fat, doesn't get all burnt off and shit. I like to have the bacon grease in a little excess too. And of course, eggs. Now, this day, in particular, I seasoned my eggs rather heavily with salt and pepper. There is a little bit of cheese mixed into the scrambled eggs, and so there's some more fat in there. And I put some hot sauce on it, So I'm getting all my electrolytes. I'm getting a shit ton of nutrients from the eggs. It still pains me when I hear about people taking egg yolks and just eating egg whites. You're basically wasting your fucking time because all the nutrition of an egg is in the yolk. So, but that's those cholesterol-fearing motherfuckers again, who are being told the wrong shit and doing the wrong shit when it comes to eggs. But eggs are pretty much a staple keto food. They should be integrated almost daily, I would say. They're also the cheapest keto food. Not only are they like a superfood when it comes to nutrition, they're cheap. They're not that expensive, You can get into the organic versus inorganic eggs, but I find no difference in how I feel in my health markers or in any issues, regardless of whether my egg came from the virgin chicken on the hill or if it came from fucking, the chicken coop where they stuff 20 chickens into a little fucking area and then pump them full of all kinds of shit and make them fucking put out eggs all fucking day. It doesn't really seem to move the needle health-wise for me in either direction. I know there'll be people who argue that with me, but I've been doing this a while, and I've been eating eggs like this a while, and I've felt fine, barring my electrolyte issues occasionally, which go away over time. I haven't had any cramps in a long time now. So I know I'm nailing it with the electrolytes. My energy levels have only tanked once or twice during this adaptation, but I feel fucking great when I eat eggs. I'm fine, It's how it goes. Eggs and bacon, pretty much breakfast. Now dessert. What did I do for dessert on this day, which was probably an hour or so after I had the bacon and eggs? I had my Veronica's Health Crunch. I don't know if you can get this shit. You might be able to find it on Amazon. One of my supermarket chains here, Wegmans, sells it. You got to find the unflavored, just the regular kind, because they do have some more sugared up versions of it. But this is my dessert. And the reason I chose it is there's not a shit ton. In fact, there's hardly any almonds in it. It's mostly pecans. And it's very high fiber, You have 9 grams per serving total carbohydrate, 7 of which is fiber. So that's 2 net grams of carbs per serving. There's 6.5 servings in a bag. So that equals out to about, 13 fucking grams of carbs for the whole fucking bag. I generally eat half the bag in a sitting, so I'm probably getting about anywhere from 6 to 8 grams of carbs right there. 2 of those grams are sugar. They're from, not that this matters, but they're from fruit that's mixed into it. There's some cranberries and I think maybe a little bit of honey mixed in with the sea salt. So you're getting some mineral content that way too. But this is my dessert. It is just a hint of sweetness and very satisfying. Also very satisfying to mix it with full-fat yogurt, which is 8 grams of lactose per serving, which is glucose-based carbs. And, you put that in, and if you want it even sweeter, you can add some stevia erythritol, and you got a nice fucking dessert there. I love it. I could sit there and eat that. It's every bit as satisfying as a bowl of ice cream used to be. Every bit as satisfying as, cookies to me now. In fact, I crave this shit as a dessert. I'll seek it out. My body has trained to say, hey, this is our source of sugar now, even though it's not much. But I'm more sensitive to it because I'm not overloading on sugar all the time. My tolerance for sugar has come down. I'm a lightweight now when it comes to sugar, which means I can be satisfied. I can satisfy my sweet tooth with only 2 grams of sugar per serving, and consequently, that's the only 2 grams you're really getting of carbs from this. Maybe it's 1 gram per, I don't know. I don't know how the fiber breakdown does, because there are some fibrous, fruits that slow absorption of sugar as well. You're getting 5 grams of protein, only 1 gram of saturated fat, which I do believe comes from the coconut oil. These are all good ingredients. I didn't have any problem with anything I saw in the ingredients. I didn't really take a picture of it, but this is my one of my go-to desserts now over almonds, because almonds, I can overeat almonds. And they're a little more carby than pecans when it comes to that. I can definitely pound down some almonds. And the fat breakdown isn't the best of almonds, whereas pecans are more of an even between omega-3, omega-6 ratio. So it's a slightly healthier nut. And I try to only buy one of these bags at a time, or only have one bag max, if I'm on a day of eating during an eating window. Because I do ADF, I don't mind if I take out the whole bag in one day. Because even if I go slightly over my 50 grams of carbs for that day, it evens out over the course of ADF because I'm not getting any carbs the next day. So maybe not optimal ketones, but that's not really the goal for me. My goal is to treat my fatty liver, to keep the sugar and alcohol out, and keto just happens to be the best vehicle to make that happen. So that's one of the reasons I'm not measuring my ketones, nor do I have any interest in doing so at this point. You don't have to be hardcore on ketones unless you're very ill, unless you are diabetic or you have blood pressure or heart. The more you're trying to fix, the more optimal keto diet you should be. But in general, no matter what kind of carbs you're consuming, if you're keeping it under 50 grams per day with as minimal sugar as possible, you will be fine. All right? So this is not a no sugar diet. This is a very, 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 very low sugar diet. And you don't want a huge dose of sugar in with. So don't think that you're going to eat that Pop-Tart and stay under your grams of carbs, because I think a Pop-Tart's only like 36 grams, almost all sugar. You are going to make bad fat when you eat that Pop-Tart in your liver, and it's going to stunt your progress on your fatty liver front and your insulin resistance front. So you do still want to be careful. But if you're keeping your sugar down with a dessert like this, to where it's 2 grams per serving, where the max you get is maybe 6 grams if you eat 3 servings, in a sitting, you're not going to overload your liver, mainly because of the high fiber content. Fiber helps. It helps keep the absorption within your liver's capacity, so you don't go into hardcore de novo lipogenesis. But optimally, if you're looking to be optimal, you need things that have no sugar, which brings me to 100% unsweetened chocolate. There is no motherfucking sugar in this shit. It is an acquired taste, as in when I first had the 100%, I've recently switched from the 90%, though I still like the 90%, which has 3 grams of sugar per serving. I've recently started to switch over, and this is the only brand I could find, the Ghirardelli. And it's in the baking section of almost every supermarket chain here. They call it Baker's Chocolate or Premium Baking Bar. But it's essentially a 100% sugar-free bar of chocolate. Eating it by itself is not going to taste like a motherfucking Hershey bar. You'll be like, Hershey can kiss my ass after you eat one of these without any sweetening on it. What you can do is melt it down, mix in some, Splenda Naturals or Stevia erythritol, something of your favorite artificial sweetener that doesn't fuck with you too much. I'd avoid sucralose and things like that. But you can sweeten it and then harden it and then have a chocolatey thing. I'm too lazy to do all of that, so what I often do is I'll snap off a serving or 2 of this. I'll pour some of my Stevia erythritol on top and try to eat it without spilling it, and it's sweet enough for me at that point. There are all kinds of things you can do with chocolate. Chocolate is very healthy. It's very high in saturated fat. There are a lot of health benefits. It's got calcium and iron and shit in it. It's good stuff. It is also 5 grams per serving, 2 of which are fiber. So you're getting 3 grams per serving here. You got to keep your total under 50 for the fucking day. So this is another desserty thing. I also like to melt this down, sweeten it, as I said, in the microwave, and then pour it while it's still hot over my Greek yogurt, and then it immediately solidifies. I stir it in, and I essentially get chocolate chip yogurt, without any fructose. No sugar in there, which is the way to go. Of course, I already mentioned coffee, and one of the things I do sometimes when I'm hungry is I'll just have a cup of coffee with some heavy cream in it, and that will be my snack as well. Hence, keeping myself in fat burning mode and really just keeping primed, you know. So I don't always reach for those other snacks. I go for the fucking coffee. So then I get to dinner. It was, with my mother I had dinner. She made chicken marsala, which had about 10 grams of carbs in it total. The sauce did. And, of course, I put it in a salad. I mixed all the meat and sauce with it because, she was doing it with pasta, which is typically how a lot of chicken marsala seems to be consumed. It's with some kind of pasta. But I did that. I put a bunch of mozzarella cheese on top, and that was my dinner. So now we get to the day 2, which is the tail end of my 36-hour eating window. And for lunch, I had tuna fish mixed with a salad, lots of spinach and lettuce and greens in there. And, heavily seasoned with celery salt and, other, a little bit of garlic salt and stuff. So there's a lot of salt in this. Olive oil, fucking mayonnaise mixed in and shit. And, this used to be part of a tuna macaroni salad I used to eat a lot. But I've replaced the pasta with leafy greens. And yeah, it's a different consistency, not quite the same consistency, but it's damn sure healthier than the pasta is. And it's very low carb. There's maybe 4 or 5 grams of carbs in that whole bowl. It's good stuff. So then I got invited over to my buddy's house, and they're trying to go keto as well. He wanted to cook, have a cookout and have a keto safe meal for his wife mainly, but he's become on board and knowing that I'm keto too, though I often just don't eat if I, can't find anything when I'm hanging out with him. So he also has a couple of kids, and this is kind of an issue that I've noticed in society is we're reluctant to put our kids onto this. But he made 2 versions of the buffalo sauce. The one on the right is Frank's Red Hot mixed with good old-fashioned butter. And he used that on the wings. And the one on the left, he made some wings for his kids, which was one of the things a recent trip to a restaurant did to me, and that's they mix the hot sauce in with barbecue sauce, which is very heavy in sugar and should be avoided if you're keto. No barbecue sauce. Sorry, it's essentially sugaring your meat is what you're doing when you do barbecue. Gonna miss it, but you know what? Not that much, because I love me some buffalo sauce and some hot sauce. So there are 0 carbs in Frank's Red Hot buffalo sauce or any other, check the labels. There might be one that has 1 gram, in which you might want to be a little leery of. But generally, when shit's supposed to be spicy, it shouldn't have fucking sugar in it. And then, of course, we had a salad with the meal, lots of greens, and eventually got a little bit of carrot. You got to be careful with the carrot, mixed in with some cheese and, nice keto-friendly filler. You should have a salad with every meal. It should be the appetizer. It should be mixed in with meats and fats, just wherever you can get it. You don't have to just eat a salad, but you should have some with your meal, so on and so forth. I find also cooked spinach and that kind of stuff works as well in a meal. And I'm finding more and more restaurants that'll give you buttered steamed spinach with your meal as a side dish. So he did throw a steak on the grill, which got divided up, between 4 people. And so, he threw that. And then, of course, we had motherfucking chicken wings on there. And I only ate 10 of those. Now, the thing with chicken wings, yes, they're keto friendly. From a fat standpoint, you're getting a lot of omega-6 with that, if that's your concern. I obviously don't give a shit about that. But, honestly, chicken wings are one of my favorite keto-friendly foods. The legs obviously containing more fat than the wings actually do, but it's a very high-fat, very high-calorie dense thing, and very high protein. Now, this is an area of contention that I've recently had a few comments about, that, about keeping protein in moderation. The reason you don't want to overconsume protein is that Once you've met your amino acid needs for your muscles, guess what's happening to that protein? It's being converted through gluconeogenesis into glycogen, which will be stored. And if you do it too much and you have a high level of glycogen stored, you will fall out of ketosis. So if ketosis is your goal, you gotta be moderate on the protein. If you don't give a shit about how many ketones you're making, then you're gonna be partially carb burner, and you might even have some energy crises here and there, depending on how much you're over consuming the protein, because excess protein will be converted to glycogen in your body. And when your glycogen stores are full, you are kicked out of fat burning mode. Cortisol has a big role to play in this, and glucagon. And these things will fucking happen in your body. You will be kicked out of ketosis if you overdo it on protein. So 10 wings is about the max, and the small slice of meat, I'd say I went over a little bit. Who knows? So I might have popped a little bit of glycogen. But then again, I'm doing ADF. So that glycogen isn't going to be around very long. And when you do these protocols and you're fat adapting, your body tries to preferentially hold on to whatever glycogen it can to fulfill your quick burst energy needs over time. So chicken wings were the big fucking thing, of the day. And then that was it. I ate the rest of my Veronica's Health Crunch for dessert, and that was... Actually, no, I took Veronica's Health Crunch, and I didn't take a picture of it. I should have. But my Fage full fat yogurt, 9 grams to carbs per serving. You can find the cups, which are only 8 grams because it's a smaller serving for some reason. And those are all lactose. There's no fructose in that. So I mixed some of my nuts from Veronica's in with the yogurt for dessert on this night. And I was disgustingly full at the end of it, which is what should happen on your feed days. During your eating window, I can't stress it enough, it is very important to consume enough food to let your body know that you are not starving, because otherwise your body's going to slow down your metabolism. And don't be afraid that if you overdo it on your feed day, because it will ramp your metabolism up. I find that when I overdo it, I am a lot, my body heat seems to go up. I feel warmer, almost sweaty, as opposed to cold. You will feel, if your metabolism's down, you'll feel cold. If your metabolism's up, you'll feel like you're running hot, like you're burning up. Even though it's like 72 degrees, you're gonna feel warmer because if you overdo it on calories and your apostat's working properly, it will ramp up your metabolism. You'll also have more energy. You'll want to go out and do things. You will be more motivated because your body is trying to burn off when you overdo it. And this can only happen in a high-fat, low-carb environment. This is the only way your apostat's doing his job, where it can regulate your body weight properly. It won't do it if you're a carb burner. It's just going to keep struggling to keep your glycogen up, and in the process, you're going to spill over into fat, and you're always going to feel more hunger than someone who is on high-fat, low-carb. It's just a fact of life. Even if you're being as healthy as you can with the fruits and the carbs, it's going to be a thing. Remember, even though this is what I'm eating, it's not perfect, because I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Have a nice motherfucking day. And shit.